Hey everybody, Nick the Record Lover here. It's Monday, January 20th, 2025. I hope everybody had a great Martin Luther King Day. And if you had off today, I hope you enjoyed the day off. I was just shoveling out some snow this morning, but everything is cool. So today, 61 years ago, Meet the Beatles was released on Capitol Records in the United States, January 20th, 1964. Now, this I remember first hearing this album um, 41 years ago. 41 years ago in June, it will be 41 years that I heard this album for the first time. A family member lent it to me to listen to, and I took it home and I played the heck out of it. That was a mono copy that he had, and I listened to that one, and I don't have to say it was great. It was a great experience. This one is the reissue that was a Target shop exclusive only, and it went back to the original mono analog tapes, and the cover is glossier than the original. Than the original one was more like cardboard, but this one is like a more of a clear cover, and they did a tint on the faces on the Meet the Beatles album because that's the photo that was used on the With the Beatles album, and it was all black and white. So they actually tinted this blue. And what's also cool about it, it's on the original rainbow label, and the vinyl is blue. It was a Target exclusive that came out last year, and it plays really, really well. I mean, it plays without a peep. Seriously. Hey, Miko. Thanks. Thanks. Good to see you. Cool vinyl. All right. So this I picked up in Target. Actually, I think I had some extra money left, and in December it was either buy a Charlie Brown Peanuts Christmas jigsaw puzzle and the Peanuts movie, or get to Meet the Beatles album. So that was a kind of like a no-brainer. But it also comes with mastering notes on how they remixed the album from the original mono analog tapes, and it also has a picture of the original poster for when Meet the Beatles came out in 1964. The album went number one in February of 1964, February 15th, 1964, 8 days after the Beatles. Excuse me, yeah, 6 days after the Beatles appeared on the Ed Sullivan Show. They came over on the plane to JFK Airport on February 7th, 1964. And this is, well, I mean, I grew up with this copy. I grew up with this. I didn't grow up with with listening to the UK versions of the albums until much later, when I bought a CD player and bought the UK version of Revolver. But by the time the 80s rolled around, I noticed that the record stores had the imports, and they were $20 back then. So it was a lot for a guy who was in eighth grade going into high school to try to pick up an album for $20 back then. Well, this also has the master tape chart of how they originally did it, uh, how the songs the Beatles of England, Meet the Beatles, and it's really cool how they just put the song titles on here, like from the original master tape. They just reproduced the whole thing, and they reproduced the original Capitol sleeve that came inside it, because I have an original one, and this is the sleeve that came inside it with all the different albums that came out. And I've told the story before, but this is how I learned that Jackie Gleason actually had albums out, because this was movie themes for lovers only. And then I learned that he had a ton of albums out on Capitol Records, and I've collected them over the years, and I have everything Jackie Gleason did. So it also has Surfing USA that was out by 1963. So it was a very popular album by the time 1964 rolled around. Hey, George Music for all four seasons. How are you? Beautiful album. Thank you very much. It's a great album, isn't it? If any of you, George, did you grow up? Did you grow up? Well, Miko, I know you probably grew up with the U.S. copies of the Beatles albums. I'm sure, unless you bought some of the UK copies. I have the UK mono album, and another one that I have to say that is a terrific reissue. They did reissue the Beatles albums in mono, the Capitol albums in mono recently in a whole box set. Okay, maybe you never had the UK versions. Okay. They're all on CD and they're all on reissued vinyl if you ever want to pick them up individually. You don't have to get an entire box set. Hey, Beetle 9, how you doing? Number 9, number 9, number 9. Turn me on, dead man. Beetle number 9, Beetle 9. I think it's the first time I've seen you. Hey, welcome. Good to see you on my channel. I don't have all of the Beatles 64 albums that they released in the mono set, the Capitol set, which includes the Beatles story, the United Artists version of A Hard Day's Night, the early Beatles, the second album, and something new. But I did pick up, which is one of my favorite Capitol reissues, Capitol releases in America. And I think this is a great album in itself. I mean, it's a Capitol version, quote unquote, but I grew up listening to this too from a family member. It's Beatles 65. And this has got to be now. I read about this online, and I saw somebody write a review about it. I can't tell you the guy's name, but he made a good point. He called this a concept album. And I never looked at it that way. But looking over it over the years, I think he's right. I think the guy's right. I think this is a concept record. It's, I mean, I borrowed this from my uncle in 1984. Another one. This came out December 15th, 1964. Yeah, it's a Revolution reference. By the way, pleasure being here. It's first time seeing you too. Thank you, Beetle 9. I appreciate it. This is the reissue on I just bought this in Barnes and Noble, and I had a discount on it, and I have a Barnes and Noble discount. Actually, my sister's Barnes and Noble discount. And let me tell you something. The sound quality on this is amazing. Amazing. Some people have written reviews online about these Capitol releases, the sound quality of them. I guess it depends on where you buy it and what kind of copy you get. I've bought albums from the internet and I really haven't had a problem with them. Maybe a little bit of surface noise, but this has nothing really. I mean, this is a great album from beginning to end. This is also from the original mono analog master tapes that Capitol Records got from George Martin. So, and they've been Dave Dexterized, which means that he had reverb to I Feel Fine and She's a Woman. But you know what? That's the way I grew up listening to this album. They're reverbed. So what? It still sounds great. It does. I mean, from beginning to end, this is a great record. Now, I know a lot of these songs wound up on Beatles for Sale in the UK, and some wound up on the A Hard Day's Night UK version. And then we have the single, I Feel Fine and She's a Woman, which never came out in England. That came out on a collection in 1966 in the UK called A Collection of Beatles Oldies But Goldies. That's the only thing that was released by the Beatles in 1966 in the UK. The Beatles didn't release anything here in 1966 by Christmas time. The only thing that we got was Yesterday and Today and Revolver. That's the only two albums that we had, as Christmas gifts for December 1966. But this also includes a reproduction of the original Capitol sleeve, which came inside. It has the Teen Beat side, which of course you see Beatles albums, Beach Boys albums, some surf stuff, Dick Dale and the Deltones. What do you got? Peter and Gordon, A World Without Love. And this is a beautiful copy. Again, this is more of like a glossy cover. And it's nice. It really is. And it reproduced everything on the back, including the monophonic message of the monophonic recording is playable on monophonic and stereo phonographs. Revolver is such a piece of art. You got that right, Beatle 9. It sure is. And this is the Beatles 65 right here, Black Rainbow label, and includes how they called it on the original Beatles album, putting all four of their names underneath the title. I have so many reissues of Beatles 65. It's amazing. I think I have, don't quote me, and I'm usually correct on everything I say, but I think I have an Apple of Beatles 65. Or is that Rubber Soul? No, I have Apple copies of Rubber Soul. I think that's what I was looking at. And I do have a reissue of Beatles 65 in stereo on the 1980s Rainbow label. And it's the full dimensional stereo copy And let me tell you something, that 80s copy sounds as stereo can be. I know that they were reverbed on the original stereo Capitol Full Dimensional Stereo album in '64, but it sounds like separate stereo on the reissued Rainbow label. Now that's like a 1980s press because Rarities was released in 1980 on the reissue Black Rainbow label. So there's that. And this is an original mono 1964, Beetle 65 I have, with the original orange sleeve. And the cover was in shrink wrap. It's an original 1964 copy, which is amazing that I found this. I probably paid about $8 for this. I mean, good luck getting it now for that much online. But it was just I went to a great record store, which unfortunately, after 27 years, closed down. It was Double Decker Records in Allentown, Pennsylvania, on St. John Street, and it was a great time I had collecting in that store. And I wound up getting this, like I said, I think for $8. It may have been $8, but it was less than 20. I know I paid less than 20 for this. It was amazing because I also got like I think a stereo rubber sole on the original Capitol sleeve. I think they're for like $8 too. And really, when records are being sold just to be sold, but then as Discogs took over, they were using that more as a reference, which is unfortunate. Not unfortunate. I mean, Discogs people use to catalog their collection, which is good. I mean, I don't say take anything away from Discogs. It does help if you're looking for a specific pressing and how much it's worth, or what kind of pressing it is. Especially with I bought a sealed Beatles 6 for like $25, maybe $23, and it was owned by a person who worked for Capitol Records in the '70s. So it's a '70s press, but it does have Final End of the Beatles, uh, ST2358, and it doesn't have the stereo record should be reproduced with a stereo cartridge on the back. But I did look it up. It's a 1976 press. It could be a Capital Orange, but it also could be an Apple label. That's what this cock said. Now, we didn't open it. I have like 5 other copies of Beatles 6. So, but also Beatles 6, that all of these albums did come with the reproduction of the master tape and mastering notes and the reproduction of the Beatles 65 when it came out. Like I said, I bought this, I borrowed this from a family member in December of 1984. So it was like 20 years to the day no, I'm sorry, September 1984. And let me tell you what a time I had listening to Beatles 65. It was amazing. I'm a Loser, No Reply, Babies in Black. I mean, that's how I remember the album growing up. Great price. Thanks. Yeah, George, it really was a great price. Amazing. Now, here's a little treat for you guys, just a little something different on this channel, just for tonight. Um, I do write for Medium.com. I just started writing for a link called Medium.com. Actually, it's a website where you can read stories and you could write stories and get them published, and look for publications that would publish your stories. You just need to follow the guidelines. It doesn't matter what you write about on Medium, because when I read stories on Medium, there are so many different stories you could read about. So many stories you can read. So many topics. I mean, sport, you could read about sports, you could read about mental health, you could read about music, you could read about, I mean, you know, automobiles. I mean, there's probably mechanics writing on this page. But it's so great to read different stuff and to read about people's memories of just growing up, not necessarily music, but growing up, and the things that they did, or the toys that they bought, or the food that they ate. It's just an amazing channel. And I'm on Medium, and it's my link is Medium link. I think it's medium.com, and it's Nick Aratano Jr. So if you guys ever want, you do have to be a member to read the stories. And I became a member just month by month, and it's $5 if you want to become a member month for month. It's $50 if you want to do a year. So I just stuck with the $5 for right now. But I'm able to meet some cool people on there, and they write some cool stories, and they got great topics. Your article on Badfinger was super good. Thank you so much, Miko. Dreaming about music. Is that a new channel that you have? Um, Miko has a great true crime podcast on here. Um, Miko, can you tell us about that? Can you leave a link in case anybody's interested in reading about true crime? If you guys are interested in true crime, accidentally had changed the name of my account. Oh, okay. It's still a good. It's still a good name. That's for sure. Uh, I think Miko. I think I sent you a copy on CD of Airwaves, and I think Say No More on CD. Which but Airwaves I wound up writing about on Medium.com, and that was the reunion album that Joey Molland did with Joey Molland, not Mike Gibbons. No, great. It was Joey Molland and oh God, what's his name in bad figure? Now I'm losing it. Joey Molland, not Mike Gibbons, not Tom Evans. Tom Evans was the one that he did that with. He did Say No More after that. Sure, it is a podcast. Okay, all right. Um, let's see. Now here's a couple of albums. I want to do a challenge that one of the guys on Medium that has his own publication called Listen to albums that are new to you, that are new to your ears, whether old. I don't say old, classic or new, and albums that that are new to your ears is really what it is. And he did 100 of them. Possibly I could do 100 of them because Lord knows I have 100 albums in my collection I probably did not even listen to yet. And one of them is, which I finished up today. Well, actually, here's one that I heard yesterday. I had to listen to it twice because I wrote about this on Medium, and it's called The Hollies, Romany. And this came out in 1972 after Distant Light, which was the lead singer Alan Clark's last album he did before going solo in 1972 for one album. I think one was called My Name is Harold. I think he did another one too. I think he did two solo albums. Correct me if it was only one, but he did do My Name is Harold, and it was he wanted to focus on a solo career for a little bit. So he took a vacation from this album of Romany, which was released in 1972. And Michael Rickfors, who was a Swedish songwriter, singer, and guitarist, who sang lead on this album, and it's really, really good. I mean, it's an underrated album. I wrote about this being an underrated albums. That Romany is such an underrated gem from 1972, and the songs are terrific on here. This is a gatefold cover. Okay, it's 1972. It's original copy. It's got a cutout at the just slit on the bottom because this album wound up in the cutout bin, but it went to number 184 on the charts. But it had two singles that sold worldwide. And according to online sources, it said they sold more than their material that was out in the previous 9 years. So you figure 7 years, 8 years, 9 years. So from 1963 to 1972, this album had two worldwide hits. One of them was Jesus Was a Crossmaker, and the other one was Magic Woman Touch. And he does a great Michael Rickfors. Now a little history about Michael Rickfors. He didn't speak English initially. So he came to the United States and then he learned English and then sang a whole album worth of great songs. But the great album, this is on Epic Records, came out in 1972. It's the original yellow label, and it's very good stereo. Very good. It's not reproduced stereo. It's real split true stereo. And what's that? Oh, Beatle 9. You didn't know that. You didn't know that Michael Rickfors didn't speak English. Yeah. Well, that he didn't initially, but I know that when he came to America, I think he learned the language, and then he became the lead singer for this one, and I think another album in England, but only one album in the United States. There was another album that came out in '73 with him singing on it, but I don't think it was released here. I think it was UK only. So you have, yes, I didn't. Thanks. Oh, no problem, man. It's why I'm here. Share all this information with you. We got Magic Woman Touch. Now, there was only two songs that were co-written by the band members. Touch was written by Michael Rickfors, and Blue in the Morning was written by Kenny Lynch and Tony Hicks. Tony Hicks was a member of the Hollies. and all the rest were written by outside help. The hits, Magic Woman Touch, uh, Jesus was Jesus was a crossmaker was written by Judy Sill, who was a folk singer and a songwriter in her own right. May she rest in peace. She wrote Lady O, which the Turtles recorded, uh, and had Somewhere Friday Night as the B side uh, by the Turtles. I believe that single came out in 1970, although I think both songs were recorded in 1969. Somewhere Friday Night was recorded in 1969. I think so was Lady O. I think it was just released in 70. But this is a great album. Courage of Your Convictions is a great rock song on this album. Delaware Taggart and the Outlaw Boys, great country rock. Won't We Feel Good? Downriver. Downriver shows off Michael Rickford's vocal chops. So it's so great. It's so amazing. And like I said, I did write this about on this on medium.com. And I write mostly about music and records on there. So that's usually that's my forte that I write on there because there's so many other great topics on there. It was amazing. Now the album was recorded at Abbey Road Studios. Romany was, and the recording engineers were Peter Brown and Alan Parsons. So how you can't go wrong, right? So it was released in 1972, and the catalog number is K as in kangaroo, E as in Edward, 31992. Now the album is much more easier to find than the reissued CD with the bonus tracks. Because I looked on eBay and I'm like, maybe I could find this for like $10 and free shipping, brand new, imported. You got to go to about $32.99 for the cheapest for the CD. And that's previously owned. So I don't know why this hasn't been reissued on CD, re-released on CD, because it has some awesome bonus tracks on it. That great bonus tracks. I've never heard. There was actually The Baby, which was from the movie The Baby, and that was not a. If you could sit through that film once, you're lucky, because I did, and once, and it was just mm. The song I'm sure is good, and you know what? I never heard the title song, but that was another big single that came out. So has the original Epic sleeve as well. And you know what's so cool about this sleeve is that it has "We'd Like to Borrow Your Ears" at the bottom here. In other words, Epic would send you records to listen to at no charge to give them ideas on whether or not they're good enough. Was it for free? Let me double check that. Yep. No strings, no gimmicks, no dumb offers or obligations. We just want to tune into your taste. Oh, a year playback, it's called. $3 for the subscription. Not bad if they're going to send you 45s and 33s. I wonder how long that lasted. I didn't see many sleeves with this on it. Let's put it that way. But that must have been a great offer back then. But who knows what they sold, what they sent to you too. And another one that's new to my ears, even though I know one song off of it, Neil Young with Crazy Horse. Everybody knows this is nowhere. I just listened to this the first half yesterday and the second half today. What an album this is. To say it's good is an understatement completely. I mean, a lot of people have this, and a lot of people know it from beginning to end. Probably his most popular album, Neil Young. I mean, probably next to Harvest, but I don't have Harvest, and I'm thinking about maybe buying that one, but I'm not sure. But this is good. Cinnamon Girl, Down by the River, and a real long jam on it called Cowgirl in the Sand. It's a great record. This is a 1970 copy on the Reprise label, the brown label. Neil Young is amazing. Yep, that's right, Miko. He sure is. In fact, he's featured on the second Crosby, Stills and Nash album called Deja Vu. Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. That's a good album. I very much like the debut, Crosby, Stills and Nash. But I do think Deja Vu rocks a little bit more. And Well, adding Neil Young is was a great move to doing that. This also has the reprise sleeve, the original reprise sleeve that came with all the artists that were on reprise at the time. You know, Dean Martin, Nancy Sinatra, Arlo Guthrie, the Kinks. I see reprise was Frank Sinatra's label. Now, initially, Frank Sinatra thought rock and roll was the devil's music. Go figure. I don't know. Don't. That's another topic for another day. It's probably on Medium, so it's somewhere. I won't get into that. But the Fugs, if you ever listen to the Fugs, it's they're but but in a fun way. Um, but the deal is, people went to Sinatra and said, "Hey, these groups, you got to sign them." So he wasn't. He was good business wise, Frank Sinatra. So he knew what would sell because the kids were listening to all these groups anyway. And what else came with this? It was a Warner Brothers promo for the double LPs that they put out for $2, which had samples of songs from artists that you couldn't get, that weren't released, or were on albums only, or maybe singles. And this is in great shape. I mean, nobody even filled this out or checked it. It's for the Big Ball, which was a double. I have most of these double albums. This also has the record show and songbook, the Warner Reprise songbook and record show. Two albums for the Big Ball, two albums for record show, and $2 for the Big Ball, $2 for record show, and $2 for songbook. I mean, there's one called I have Looney Tunes and Merry Melodies, and that's on Reprise that somebody gave to me, and that has 5 records in it, and it was $5. That's what you got. They didn't charge you $9.96 for each album because it wasn't the accounting department that was putting the albums out. It was the promotional department that were putting the albums out. But they said, hopefully these albums will make you want to go buy the Reprise albums, full length albums by these artists. You know, it's just to give you an inkling of what of what the people's music was at that point. And you did get some cool Kink stuff on these albums. Animals in the Zoo, I believe that's a bonus track on the Kinks Lola versus Power Man and the Money Go Round Part One. I think it's a bonus track, or that might be on Percy, uh, which is that was reissued also with Lola versus Power Man. But that's also, I love these inserts that came with the records. And I have, like I said, I have most of them. I have all 3 of these. That's for sure. I have one called Burbank, which is another double album, and then was one album that was committed to Frank Zappa. It was called Zapped, and it's a picture of him on a cover with the hair, the beard, the whole 9 yards. I did see it uh, in a store, and it wasn't a lot of money, but just my opinion, and it doesn't necessarily reflect those of YouTube, Facebook, or any social media. I'm not a huge fan of Frank Zappa. Okay, I know the guy was a smart man. I know he was a great businessman. I know he had a head. He had a head for what was good in music. I disagreed with him about the Summer of Love. He wanted to expose a Summer of Love as a bunch of hoo ha, and I really didn't think that. I wasn't there, but I think by what was going on at that point, I think the Summer of Love, Paul McCartney said, I wouldn't call it a summer of love, but I would call it a golden summer. And John Lennon said that a lot of those things that we hoped for didn't all pan out during that time, but we had hope that they would, that the war would end and there would be more peace in the world. But the music gave us all hope in the 60s and 70s. That's what I have to say about that. So, I mean, for people that like Zappa, I did try listening to Zappa. I have. I like one song that he did called White Port Lemon Juice, which is one of the tracks on one of these double albums. If I'm honest, I've never listened to Frank Zappa. Okay, okay, Beatle 9. That's that's your prerogative. And I know I've said that to a friend of mine who's so much into Zappa. She met Frank, she met Ahmet, she met Moon Unit, she met Dweezil. She was a huge Zappa fan. She tells you, I mean, we're in it for the money. I mean, she could tell you everything about Zappa. I mean, just name one album should go to town on it. Like most of us will on the Beatles or the Beach Boys or the Kinks or the Birds or anything like that. Music is subjective. Music is in the ear of the listener. I mean, you may not like it, but I have a respect for Zappa stuff. Wow, ah, a big fan, really. Or you're a big fan, Beatle? Or were you just joking? Or oh, yeah, no, a big fan, really. Are you talking about my friend? Yeah, because she is. I mean, I tried to watch 200 Motels, and it was free on YouTube. The Frank Zappa movie. Oh man, I don't know what to say. I would just say if you have an open mind, you can watch it. But I mean, I'm not a prude, but I just couldn't get into it. And Ringo Starr was in it, and he was playing Frank Zappa. Oh yeah, about my friend, right? Yeah, she's a huge fan. And I told her, I said, look, I tried 200 Motels. I couldn't do it. Just I got through. I saw some of it, a little bit. You had Howard Kalin and Mark Volman of the Turtles who became members of Mothers of Invention, and a friend of mine. I have never been into Zappa, but I've always respected others' taste in music. That's good for you, George. That's exactly the way I feel. I mean, now dreaming about music, Miko. I've learned so much about Steely Dan through her. Oh my goodness. I mean, I liked some of their songs growing up when I listened to classic rock, and I always loved when Reelin' in the Years came on. And I never heard the long version of Do It Again until I bought Can't Buy a Thrill, the first album. And Steely Dan is the best band ever. Always with the exclamation point. Hey, Uncle Paul, how are you? All right, glad you made it tonight. Thank you. Thanks for showing up. Oh man, you're the man. I don't know if you saw the early stuff, but I talked about Beatles 65, the reissue of it. I don't know if you got it yet, but I did. I did get the reissue of it, and I have the reissue of Meet the Beatles. I don't know how far I'm going to go with the Capitol reissues. I might go after the early Beatles and something new. Um, I would like the prices to go down a tad. They are $30 a piece, and when you have the originals, but I just have to go after Beatles 65. No, so glad to hear from you. I got the oh yeah, you got the box set. That's right. That's right. Because you told me on one of your things that you said, yeah, I know it's re-released, but you ordered the box set. I remember. It's like, yeah, if you're a Beatles fan, you're going to order it anyway. It doesn't matter. They could do the Beatles 1965 yet next, and that's probably uh, what's coming. But even though they did promise Rubber Soul in December of 2025 as a box set collection. I hope Giles Martin does it right and puts a 5.1 surround sound mix in it, not a 7.1, which I don't have. And I don't know what I'm going to do with two other channels in the house. It's like I said, I joked about it. A 7.1 Atmos. I don't have the means to listen to it like that. I mean, where am I going to put the other channels in the bathroom? I mean, I'm only going to hear two parts of it in the bathroom while I'm showering. That's a great place to put electronic equipment, too, when you're taking a shower and all the place is wet. Amazing. We'll read about myself at 11 o'clock news and say, hey, person brings 7.1 Atmos speakers into bathroom. Gets a shot, gets a good shock. Okay, maybe that was a little bit too morbid. All right, but hey, we all have a sense of humor, don't we? I did pick up a reissue. I have an original, which I was very lucky to get, $20 copy, and this was down in Quakertown, the Quakertown Flea Market at Record Revival, which is open Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And once in a while, you catch a couple of good deals in there. No, a lot of times you catch a couple of good deals in there. You just got to know when to go. It's like if you go every week, you're going to see the same stuff. But if you wait a month or two, you may find a couple of things. I mean, I found original Led Zeppelin albums in there for like $11. I found like in Led Zeppelin 4 or the Zoso Symbols, and it was an 1841 Broadway copy. It was an original first press of it, 1841. And I found a first pressing of the debut I think I paid $11, and that was in shrink wrap. And it was an 1841 debut of Led Zeppelin. And that's oh, box set is still sealed on display. Are you going to open it, Paul, or are you going to buy the album separately? If I had the means, it's probably what I would do. But I have, like I said, I have the mono box set, the UK box set, and I do have the Capitol versions on CD as well. When they put the two of them out, Meet the Beatles up until Rubber Soul. I didn't buy the reissues of the American copies, but what I was going to say is I found a original copy of Countdown to Ecstasy by Steely Dan down in Quakertown on the ABC label, the black ABC label. They're not easy to find, and when you do find them, they're not too cheap. I was going to buy yeah, they're not too cheap. There was a royal scam that they had an original copy of on ABC. It was in this shrink wrap. But when I took the record out, I saw, I don't know if it was a scratch. It was a scratch, but I couldn't feel it. But for $25, I didn't want to take the chance. But somebody came in like while I was standing there and picked it up, and I said, "Geez, I should have bought it." But if there's another one, there's probably going to be another one out there. I have the CD, and as Miko can tell you, Dreaming About Music, the Royal Scam. I mean, the early stuff on ABC is really great. No, you don't want to risk a scratch. No, I don't. You're right. Not for 25. If the record was 5, then maybe yeah, I would take a chance on it. But if you see like an original Steely Dan and shrink wrap, even if you see the MCA reissues, they go for $25. And the MCA reissues of the early albums don't sound as good as the original ABC copies. Now, when Gaucho came out, and somebody wrote a great, no, sir, not ABC Paramount label, just the ABC label. The original ABC, the one that had the triangle with the ABC blocks, or the black one with ABC written in small font on the top. I do have Asia, a 1977 copy with the yellow and the black circles that go around, because that's what the label looked like in 1977. So I have an original Asia copy, which I bought for myself, and I bought one for my friend Miko for Christmas, I think it was, yeah, it's good to have that album on vinyl. It's very good. I mean, I don't think Asia's underrated. Um, no, I mean, I don't think it's overrated. Some people think Asia is my absolute favorite Steely Dan album. Yeah, I mean, I liked it a lot when we discussed that album. Miko and I would discuss albums every couple of weeks when we listen to. We both take turns on different albums, and Asia was one that we did, one of the early ones that we did, and I thought it was really good. I mean, to listen to it from beginning to end instead of just individual tracks, gave the album more of a perspective. And Can't Buy a Thrill is amazing from beginning to end. Countdown to Ecstasy, though, kicks butt. I mean, even if you want to get the CDs of those albums, get the MCA Universal reissues, because the master tapes they use are top notch. And Donald Fagen writes most of the liner notes, or they take interviews from Donald Fagen and Walter Becker and reproduce them in the CD booklets. And somebody on Medium just wrote an entire article. Jonathan was his name. Wrote about it. Wrote about the story of Gaucho, how they recorded it. And I forwarded that to my friend Miko here, Dreaming About Music. And it's a great article. But the circumstances behind recording Gaucho were not as pleasant, from what I've read. I mean, I don't know exactly what Fagen and Becker said about it, because I don't know firsthand what they said. I'm confused. Beatles 65 wasn't reissued on vinyl. Yeah, Uncle Paul. It was reissued on a 1980s Rainbow label. I have one. And it has ST2228 very small on the bottom. And it doesn't say Capitol Full Dimensional Stereo. It's a stereo copy, but they did reissue Beatles 65 separately in mono. They did do the original. They did do the reissues in mono. The separate ones. They did reissue Beatles 65 in mono from the box set. Oh yeah, I thought you meant new box set. No, no. Um, no, it was reissued on the Rainbow label in the 80s in stereo. And and I have it, and it's on the reissued Rainbow label, and it sounds great. I mean, it's a great stereo mix of the album. A lot of those Rainbow reissues sound really good. I have a Let It Be on a Rainbow is it a Rainbow reissue? Yeah, with the poster inside. Do I know which band Donald Fagen was with before Steely Dan? Now, I probably should know this. I think I read it in the Gaucho. Which band was he in? I thought they played in a band or on a track with Chevy Chase playing drums. That's right. I think it says Flower or something like that. Uh, Flower, something with a and yeah, it was like almost like a psychedelic band he was with, and Chevy Chase was in the band. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what the name of the band was because I saw a picture of the album cover. Okay, you're not gonna open it. I play all my originals. I did open and play Blue Meet the Beatles. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. I was gonna buy the box set, but 1 week before doing it, I realized that Paul was going to do a concert in a country near to mine, and money ended up there. Well, that's good, Beetle. That's good. I mean, I'm glad. I hope you had a great time. I'm sure you did. Seeing that. Um, was it just Fagan? Was Becca there too? I'm not sure, but there was an album down in Quakertown that had Becker and Fagan, and it was the early stuff before they started Steely Dan. So I don't know. It might be a compilation of what they did. Oh, Becker was also with Jay and the Americans. Jeez, was that when they did "Walking in the Rain" and their version of "This Magic Moment" in 1969? Becca was in Jay and the Americans. I tell you, I learned so much this weekend over 3 days. It's amazing what I learned. I learned on Medium about cover songs, and tonight I'm learning that Becker was Jay and the Americans, late '60s and early '70s. So probably he's on the album. Walter Beck is probably on the album Wax Museum, right? Jay and the Americans Wax Museum, possibly late '60s, early '70s. Jay and the Americans. Wow, probably when they did This Magic Moment in their version of Walking in the Rain by the Ronettes. Because I heard their version of Walking in the Rain. It's good. It's a good cop. It's a good recording of it. Um, Uncle Paul's Beatles Pop Playhouse. I'm going to give him a shout out. He has a great Beatles channel, but not only does he do Beatles, he does all different kinds of cartoon characters. Talks about lunch boxes, jigsaw puzzles, cereal boxes, you name it. I mean, his God blows my mind with the collection he's got, and in terrific tip-top condition. I'm like, holy cow. He did a whole section about Peanuts, the Charlie Brown characters. And I was so into that because I love Peanuts. I love that. I love it. And Dreaming About Music. Why don't you tell them, can you drop a link for your, it's a podcast about true crime, and it's on YouTube here. So, and I believe she's on TikTok. And she also has a financial podcast as well. So if you guys want to have any questions about uh, any financial moves that you might want to make, or saving money, putting money aside for a rainy day, definitely look up Miko's um, links if she wants to drop them here. Drop them here, Miko, if you want, just to so you could get some traffic on there. Yeah, no problem, Uncle Paul. I mean, you're trying to grow the Playhouse. You're getting there. Let's put it that way. It's no, it's really good. Uncle Paul, I'll tell you, he's just very the way it's produced, the way it's done is excellent, excellent. He does it so wonderful. The segues he makes, Really, really great production on it. Uncle Paul, if you wouldn't mind giving me a shout out on your next podcast, that'd be great. Well, it's almost like, in all respect, in all due respect, Uncle Paul, it's like the Magic Garden when you mention people's names. If you remember the Magic Garden with Carol and Paula, raise their hands. Who remembers Magic Garden with Carol and Paula sitting on the swings on PIX TV? I think that might have been just a regional thing because I don't know if they showed that all over the United States. But I remember Carol and Paula in Queens, New York, uh, on Channel 11, WPIX TV, and watching them in New Jersey too. And I talked to Carol on the phone once. She was such a nice lady. And they actually have that album, which has the taping 5 more tomorrow. Of course, Nick, we'll start on episode 13. Yes, 11 Alive. That's right, 11 Alive. You're taping 5 more as we speak. Wow, wow. That's something really cool. That's something really cool to do. Wow. Yeah. I just came up with this idea today. I knew I was going to go live this weekend. I just wasn't sure what time I was going to do it. But what is it? 7:21. Does anybody else have anything to add or comment about? Oh, tomorrow. Okay, so you're starting on episode 13. Wow, 13. Yikes. Did I catch 9, 10, 11, and 12? I knew I caught the last one you did. Oh, you're doing 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. Taping one tomorrow. Of course, Nick will start on episode 13. Okay. 11 Alive. Yeah, PIX had so many great things on there. I remember when he did the Croft Superstar Hour when I used to come home from school, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I always hoped it would be Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, the Bugaloos, or H.R. Puff and stuff, or the Lost Saucer. No, episode 10 is up. Okay, then I must have seen episode 10. 13 through 17 tomorrow. Okay, so definitely check out Uncle Paul's Playhouse, Pop Playhouse. Probably one of the biggest Beatle fans I've ever met. I mean, when I see people's Beatles channels everywhere, I'll tell you. Oh, definitely, Miko. Look for Uncle Paul. Yeah, definitely, definitely. It's a great podcast. Check out everybody else's page here. George Music for all 4 seasons. Yep. I mean, the music is for all 4 seasons. I'll tell you. Um, there is okay. Thank you, everyone. Oh, no problem, Uncle Paul. Man, thanks for showing up. I'm glad you caught me tonight. I thought I was doing it on Friday, but sometimes on Friday I get home. I got other things to do, and you just come home and you want to chill out on a Friday. And yes, Saturday I was out. I was just getting stuff done around the house. Yesterday I was just chilling out, just watching the snow come down. Got my car out this morning, so I was like, okay, cool. Did the laundry. I was like, got a lot of stuff accomplished while I was home. So I'm so glad that I got to do this video tonight. And yeah, definitely I have to check, Miko, which group that was with Chevy Chase playing drums. Yes, I looked for you Friday. Yeah, sorry about that, Uncle Paul. You know what? The New York Rangers were on that night. That's what happened. Sometimes that takes priority. Lately, that does. When there's hockey on and the Rangers are playing, it's like they're pushing now to get into the playoffs. They're in such a hole right now that they have to dig themselves out, which they're trying to do because they made it so far last season, and this season they're barely grasping for a playoff spot. So Friday night, I was like, look, I haven't watched a local game since I don't know when. So, but it's I don't know how cold it is where you guys are. I know Miko's out on the West Coast, of course. So that's right, of course, hockey's a little bit more important to me. It is, yeah. So New York Rangers, and then doing a video on YouTube. But I'm like, well, I got a podcast I always watch religiously. Two people doing play-by-play in the New York Rangers, and then I keep the sound down on the broadcast on the actual game to hear them talk about it, especially if it's not an MSG feed, because the owner of Madison Square Garden took off the Madison Square Garden network from cable. So how are you supposed to get more viewers and more fans if you take that off of the network? So don't get me started about the owner of Madison Square Garden. I mean, I have to decide whether or not literally if I want to buy the box set of which I'm probably not going to do, of the new Beatles album, or get a ticket for a Rangers game at Madison Square Garden, or I would have to eat peanut butter for like the next 6 months. I mean, yeah, I could live on peanut butter, Gatorade, water, uh, ginger ale, and music, and I would survive. I don't know for how long, but I would survive. Let's put it that way. Um, what else was I going to say? I bought a reissue of Countdown to Ecstasy as well. I haven't opened it yet, but it's a reissue. I think that MCA put out. I don't think I've heard. Uh, I have heard the original. The original sounds pretty good. I have to say for the price that I bought it for. And I did buy an original Gaucho on MCA, but I haven't listened to that album yet. So that's got to go on the list of albums that I haven't listened to yet. I got a few more here. I got Trespass by Genesis. That I didn't listen to yet. I think maybe a couple of tracks, but not all of it. And I also had From Genesis to Revelation, which has Peter Gabriel's early incarnation of Genesis, and Phil Collins had not joined the band yet. That's like 60, 67, 68 when they started, and it didn't have Phil Collins drumming yet. So I'm looking forward to hearing that stuff. There's also great stuff by Al Cooper that I have to listen to. Like I Stand Alone. Al Cooper originally came from the Blues Project and then went into Blood, Sweat, and Tears for one album. Actually, he produced the horns on a couple of the second tracks. So on a couple of the tracks on the second album, just Blood, Sweat, and Tears. But I like to hear I Stand Alone. I might have heard it once, but I really don't remember it. And You Never Know Who Your Friends Are. That's another top album by Al Cooper. And here's something that I bought with a Christmas Amazon gift card that I won at my Christmas party at work. The Rolling Stones, 1966 to 1971 singles on vinyl, reissued. Great, great stuff. Great stuff. Would that be the Royal Teens? George, Music for All Four Seasons. Did he start with the Royal Teens? Al Cooper with Bob Gaudio? Was that him? Is that who he started with? Oh yeah, Beatle 9. If this is what you're looking at, the Rolling Stones. Yeah, I can't wait to open this. I got this with a gift card I won at my corporate Christmas party, and look what you get. You get all the singles, plus a book, plus a what do you call some pictures, some photos. So for the price on Amazon, it was going to keep going up if I didn't buy it, so I snagged it at a good price. I also have the 65 to 67 CD singles, same kind of box set, and I really enjoy those. But I enjoy their output from 66 to 71. I'm a big Stones fan. Do you know who Al Cooper was with when he first started? Was I right, George? I did say the Royal Teens, short shorts. I don't know if that's correct, but I think that that's who it was. Al Cooper played piano with a lot of different people. Al Cooper played piano on Highway 61 Revisited, the Bob Dylan album. He played on Simon and Garfunkel's albums in the early days, just to make ends meet. And then he did the solo albums. A family member of mine is a huge Al Cooper fan. Um, so, and I have a couple of the Blues Project's albums. I have Projections, and I don't have the live one. That's the first album. The live album is the first one, but I have Projections, and I also have a compilation called What's Shakin' on Elektra Records with The Lovin' Spoonful, Tom Rush, Eric Clapton, and the Powerhouse, which was a one-off gig, which did Al Cooper is on it too. And that was an audition album for groups on there that wanted to be on Elektra, the Paul Butterfield's blues band. I'm not very familiar with the Stones. I am correct. Thank you, George. So it was the Royal Teens. Okay, short shorts with Bob Gaudio. Right. I just interviewed Charlie Colello, who worked with Cooper. No kidding. Now, did he drum on some of their songs? Because on one of their singles, it says drums by Colello in quotes. So I don't know if Charlie Colello actually drummed on some of their songs. Wow, Charlie Colello. You just interviewed him. I interviewed via email Joe Long about a B-side, about Something's on Her Mind from the Genuine Imitation Life Gazette. Miko, that's an album I think we have to do is a Four Seasons featuring Frankie Valli, the album that was called the Genuine Imitation Life Gazette. It looks like a newspaper, and it's an amazing record. So maybe for the next album, I think it's your turn, but because we haven't done an album in a while, and I think it's your pick. And then later on, if you want to do the Four Seasons one, it's great. Colello was a music arranger with over 100 of his works that have made the Billboard 100. Okay, I'm game. Okay, thanks, Miko. That's great. But you picked the next album because it is your turn. I remember. Um, so did he drum at all, George? Charlie Colello? Because I have a single that says drums by Colello. I don't know if he produced the drums or if he drummed, because Jimmy Miller drums on "You Can't Always Get What You Want" by the Stones, and that was their producer. So um, I'm very not familiar with the Stones, but indis indisputable, they're great. I've listened to a couple of albums and their greatest songs, but they are so good. Okay. No, he was not a drummer. Okay, so I don't know why it said drums by Colello in quotes. I don't know why that said that. I don't know why that said that on the single then, because I think it does say. I don't know. It's one of the singles. I'm not sure which one it is though. I don't want to. It might be "Come On, Marianne." I don't know because that was one of their big singles. I'm wondering, George, while we're talking about Four Seasons, I'm wondering if when Marianne, "Come On, Marianne" and "Carrie Ann," did you say you interviewed Joe Long? Yes, I did. Via email, not person to person. But it was about Something's on Her Mind. He said he dug the tune, but his favorite on the album was Saturday's Father. And they did perform that on the Kraft Music Theater. And he said that people were actually crying in the studio that day because that is such a sad song. I thought Saturday's Father was like a person named Saturday and her father. I thought it might have been like a folk song or something like that. But Saturday's Father, once I listened to it, it's a very tough song to listen to. But at the end, when they do that whole falsetto thing, it sounds like a grown-up ragdoll song. I mean, it figures ragdoll was 62, and in 1968 they do Saturday's Father, and that had like the falsettos at the end, and they still had it by 1968. And I also have a promo photo, a billboard photo of the Genuine Imitation Life Gazette, the picture from the Billboard magazine. And it shows the album, it shows the inserts, it shows everything, and it said Genuine Imitation Life, the Gazette is making news in '69. Unfortunately, it didn't make that much news. Very interesting, and a huge fan of Joe Long, and a very sad song, Saturday's Father. Yes, it is. Joe Long loved that one. Joe Labraccio was his real name. I have a friend who lived next to the Four Seasons in Jersey. So yeah, he grew up. He was actually in the studio when they were doing Genuine Imitation Life Gazette. So well, actually doing Something's on Her Mind when they were producing the song that day. Yeah, Joe Long. Yeah, Joe Long is a nice guy. Yeah, very nice. For how he said thank you for bringing the music to light. He said I dig the tune. He said Something's on Her Mind wasn't one of his favorites, but he liked it, and I liked it. In fact, I think it's probably one of the better songs on the album, even though I like everything. Idaho was a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing, and that was the single. But I do like Something's on Her Mind a lot better. But if you listen to Wonder What You'll Be, they did put out the box set of the Four Seasons, everything in mono, and they did make a true mono mix of the Genuine Imitation Life Gazette, even though they never released it here. And there's other stuff you can hear in Wonder What You'll Be. It's got like this piano intro, and then they start singing. But I would say that with the phase drums at the end of that, Wonder What You'll Be. It sounds more like phasing from Magical Mystery Tour than it does Sergeant Pepper's, even though that was their contribution to the Sergeant Pepper's Pet Sounds Magical Mystery Tour kind of thing. And that's what Gaudio wanted to do. but unfortunately it didn't sell. So the album, he said, I still get nightmares about. I love the record, and so apparently did John Lennon, because John Lennon did a had lunch with him, according to Bob Gaudio. Um, and That's Lennon loved it, and I think he might have taken the idea of Sometime in New York City, the newspaper cover, from that, and then you had Jethro Tull doing "Thick as a Brick." Now I don't know who he was influenced by. Was it John Lennon's album, or was it the Four Seasons album? You recently, the recently released Genuine Imitation Life Gazette mono is great sounding and only available in the box set. Oh, that goes that figures. Um, because I think re-releasing it in mono, I don't think it's probably a wise move, because I don't know if a lot of people would buy it unless you're a hardcore fan of the album like I am. Because I don't have everything Four Seasons. I do have the Edizione de Oro, which is the double album with the Zodiac poster and the whole nine yards. And I have Working My Way Back to You. I don't have every early album though. Like I don't have the Christmas album by the Four Seasons. I don't have that. Um, I do have Let's Hang On. Well, Working My Way Back to You was supposed to be called Let's Hang On, I believe, because I think they're trying to hang on to the buildings that are in the background. Gaudio was very hard on himself and his work. You're not kidding. I am a great admirer of his work. Gaudio was my Brian Wilson. Yeah. Well, Gaudio, that's what Gaudio was. Gaudio was Miko. Are you a Four Seasons fan? I don't know if you like Frankie Valli. I'm not sure if you've ever. I'm sure the hits you've heard. I'm not sure if you're a fan or not. Um, but yeah, Gaudio is very hard on himself. He says he gets nightmares about Genuine Imitation Life because it all the time. And uh, I just know the hits. Okay, well then I think Genuine Imitation Life because it'll be a real treat for you. Um, Gaudio is very hard on himself. Yeah. You know what's funny is that, not funny, but when my parents were married for 1 year in 1965, they went to a very small club in Queens, New York, and saw the Four Seasons playing. So that was a thrill for them. I have to leave, but it's a pleasure to meet your channel. Now I'm subscribed. Thank you, Beatlemine. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Have a good night. Have a good night, Beatlemine. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. Thank you all for showing up tonight. Oh, man. Yeah, Miko says goodbye to you. Don't forget, Miko has what is it? Jesus. Miko, don't forget to drop your links if you want in here. So if you guys like true crime, definitely. I mean, and how she narrates the stories very well, and with so much emotion attached to these stories. Yeah, it's truly amazing. She has such a wonderful voice. When she talks, she did a music podcast a while ago, um, and she taught. I mean, her knowledge of music. I mean, and no problem, no problem. Me, Miko, you know I'm here for you. Um, and I've learned so much about different music. I mean, if anybody here is familiar with the Australian group called the Beths, that was one of the albums we talked about. Great Australian band. She sent me as a gift a copy of their live album when she went to see them live. Great Australian band. Oh, great album live. I never heard their studio recordings, but I mean, the live album is so tight and produced so well. Because I'm not really one as part of my nature for live albums. I have a specific amount, and the Beths are amazing. I've seen them many times, and they sound even better live. Yeah, yeah. Nick, I have to head out, but it was great communicating with you. Maybe we could do a show. George, I'd love it. George, I would love it to do a show. I would love to do a show. I think as a PS, my mother told me that she thinks my father got up at the end of the night and shook hands with Bob Gaudio at the end of that night in 1965. She knew it wasn't Frankie because she would have remembered. She said, but they just got up at the end of the night when you could get up at the end of the night and say thank you for the show and shaking their hands and nice to meet you in a small club in Queens where now you can even get near somebody just to wave. So, yeah, that Beth's live album was amazing. This is great, and I'm sure a good concert. Oh, that was a good concert. Shit, they were doing all the hits up until that point. But for next time, I wanted to ask you, George, Do you think that the songs "Carry In" by the Hollies and "Come On Marianne" were influenced by each other? "Carry In" by the Hollies? Because they both came out, I think they both came out in '67, but I know that "Come On Marian" was released as a single in June of '67, and I know that "Carry In" came out maybe around the same time, but were they influenced by each other by any chance? Because it kinda sounds like it. Maybe it was inadvertently, but I'm sure you'll know. But maybe we could do a show together sometime. You let me know. You tell me what you do, and we'll get it together. All right. Great meeting you. All right. Have a great night. Have a great week coming up. Don't work too hard if you have to. You have to work, but work leisurely if you can and enjoy what you do. Um, so happy I had off Martin Luther King Day today. I didn't know about it until Friday because I didn't check all the vacation time we have for 2025. They're like, enjoy Monday. I'm like, oh, we're off. I don't think so. If anything, come on, Marion influenced the Doors. Oh yeah, maybe it influenced the riff for "Touch Me." Is that what you're thinking? Wow. Huh, maybe. Could be. The Doors had their okay. Yep. Okay. All right. All right. Never know who's influenced by who, you know? Let's see, what else do we have? Are we all caught up here? Yes. Okay, so it was Touch Me by the Who. I mean, the Doors. Excuse me. Speaking of the Who, another album I have to get into is the Who Live at Leeds. Don't get excited all at once. I know it's probably the best live album ever made, and that's what the New York Times called it, but I have not heard Live at Leeds in its entirety. I heard maybe a snippet of it once in my entire life. So if anybody wants to throw tomatoes, I'll tell you right now, if you're going to throw anything, throw a few Boston cream pies or chocolate cream pies, because those are easier to digest than tomatoes. So especially if it's thrown at you. I mean, I told some people on my blog, which is recordlover.wordpress.com. If you guys want to check that blog out, and I'm also on Facebook, Nick Aratano Jr. on Facebook. Where else am I? YouTube, Medium. I have some podcasts from Anchor.fm. It's not Anchor anymore, but you could still listen to them under Music A Friend for Life. I did do a podcast on Beatles 65. I did a podcast on Let It Be when they re-released it as a box set. What else did I do? Between the Buttons by the Rolling Stones, um, and Dr. Birds and Mr. Hyde from the Birds. Those I know off the top of my head. I did as podcasts, and Mardi Gras by Creedence Clearwater Revival, and I think that's also on here as a YouTube video. Mardi Gras by Creedence Clearwater Revival, and why the album is criminally underrated and possibly why it's their best album. It's another thing. Don't shoot me. I'm only the piano player, but that's just an opinion. Um, all right. Okay, so I think we're all caught up. And okay, oh, Ron Martin. Hey, Ron. Hey, Nick. Picked up two Beatle prizes: Meat Press info sticker cover and Butcher paste over and shrink. Wait a minute, and shrink for $30? You got it for $30? A Butcher paste over and shrink? Oh lordy. I'll tell you, folks. There's a fine right there. I mean, I've heard of people getting originals for a quarter, but wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, insane. How's it look? Oh, it's a shrink. I shouldn't have asked that. But is it a paste over stereo or paste over mono? Not that it matters. I mean, who finds a paste over and shrink these days? Well, I guess you can. But I mean, see, that's how common you could find the butcher cover. It's the only one I have, like for all you people out there, is the butcher cover inside the Rarities album. And the cover is not cropped. You could see the chairs that the Beatles are sitting in. And I remember when I showed somebody the Rarities album in 1980, somebody looked at the photo who didn't have the Yesterday and Today album, either with the paste over, the trunk cover, or the butcher cover. She looked at the photo and said, "That's completely gross. That's gross." I said, "Yeah, so did a lot of people thought that in 1966. But there's a few people that bought two copies of the butcher cover, one to keep sealed and one to listen to. I mean, Yeah, insane. Was the record with it? Not that it matters because I know we all have like 12 records of yesterday and today. But I don't know if it had. I don't know if it had that. If it has the record, I knew somebody that bought a butcher copy for 25 bucks, but the record was absolutely trashed. Who cares? You can always replace the record. I mean, if it's a paste over, you give it to me for $25 and the record is crap, and I have to buy the record. Just I'll take the cover. I don't mind. I don't mind. I don't. I don't. I don't have a butcher cover. Hopefully, I would say it is a. Is it a Grail? You see, I don't think about it that much to buy it. I know because I've seen so many of them, and I know people that have had the paste over beautifully peeled and have kept the slick and have the butcher that is beautiful. I've seen people do beautiful uh, peels. Uh, Paste over and shrink. My God, wow, wow. Ron Martin has a ton of Beatles stuff, guys. Um, that meat press cut for info sticker I had is scarce, only the 12th known. A lot scarce than the butcher. Wow, wow. Okay, wow. Yeah, well, the butcher, I mean, is not as scarce anymore. I mean, yeah, I mean, they reissued it on different colored vinyl. So I mean, if you're reissuing the album, I mean that should take yesterday and today off of the So Impossible to Buy. I mean, I would say more a mono bookends by Simon and Garfunkel is probably more elusive than a butcher cover, even a sealed butcher cover. So, Ron Martin, thanks for stopping by. Um, Thanks for uh, rocking with me tonight, like all of you. Um, but I'm gonna have to end it here tonight because it's about a quarter to 8. I gotta get ready for work. So, guys, it was great to have you all here. Ron, thanks for stopping in. I appreciate it. George, the butcher is mono. Okay, okay, yeah, that was a stereo. That probably would have been a little bit more, but the butcher was mono. Yeah, I mean, $30 for a mono butcher. That's great. Oh, you're welcome, Miko. Anytime, and definitely promote uh, your um, links here, your financial, um, and your the true crime channel on here because I know there's a lot of people that want to read about true crime and like those kind of movies too as well. So, guys, I'm signing off. This is Nick, the Record Lover, and have a wonderful night. And if music be the food of love, play on. Give me excess of it. Have a great night. See you soon. Bye. Love you.